All right, good afternoon. Wow. All right, so I know we're at the last session of the day. It's 5:30. We've already had a lot of very good information. A 3-hour keynote. How was that keynote for you? I really enjoyed that. Very dynamic, very exciting. It was long, but it was jam-packed with lots of good information, and I was kept on my toes. But they have been feeding you caffeine and sugar all day long, so I expect a slightly better response. Let's try this again. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Fantastic. All right, so I have about 4 hours of material that I'm going to compress into about 40 minutes, and then we'll go into some other fun stuff and some Q&A and that kind of stuff. But actually, I do have a lot of great swag up here. I've got these little Bluetooth speakers. I've got these USB power things that you can recharge your phone because your phones never go dead at conferences, right? Yeah, okay. And I have a pair of headphones. And so if you have good questions, particularly towards the end of the presentation, and there's a surprise at the end, so I'll be giving away swag as people ask questions. But anyways, so what am I talking about today? I'm talking about Internet Explorer as a web application platform. So what I'm talking about is, with a modern browser today, there is so much power in the browser, and you can do so much with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS these are things that 2-3 years ago, you would have had to have gone to a native app and written a lot of stuff in C or in DirectX in order to get some of the power that we have directly in the browser right now. And so that's what I want to talk about today, and really kind of open your imagination to what's possible with the web browser these days. So my name's Josh Holmes. I'm obfuscated on the internet, josh.holmes@microsoft.com, @JoshHolmes on Twitter, joshholmes.com website, slideshare.net/JoshHolmes. I hide as much as I can on the internet. So feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, tomorrow or the next day. Feel free to reach out. But here's the very brief agenda for the talk. We've got a quick history of modern browsing, and then why do you want to use a modern browser, and what can you do in that? And then at the end, we're going to talk about kind of, a little bit in the future and see where this is coming. So a quick glance back is that IE6. How many people remember IE6? How many people used IE6? If you didn't raise your hand, you're too young. You're in the wrong room. Get out. I'm just teasing. But we are working on consolidating and helping everybody get to a modern version of browser. And so this actually is a site that my team runs called IE6 Countdown. And in February, I took the snapshot, and it was 4.4% worldwide. Internet usage is IE6 still. But in the US, we're at 0.2%, which is not a lot. That's mostly enterprise and government. Norway, the shining star up there, it was 0.0%. Let's give Norway a big hand. All right. And then China is where we're still running into problems, 22.2%. If China's your market, you probably still need to support IE6. But most people are moving as close to a modern version of a browser as we can, and it's really a good opportunity for everybody to move up, because the problem that a lot of enterprise customers face is that they've got older existing web apps that they've done a lot of work on, and if you talk about a consumer application, typically you'll have one site and hundreds of developers. If you talk about an enterprise application, typically you're talking about thousands of applications and a small pool of developers. Anybody feel that pain? Yeah, okay. So you have these existing applications, and you want to be on the modern versions with better performance and better security and better reliability, but you've got thousands of applications. And so as you saw this morning, we have the new mode called the Enterprise mode for Internet Explorer. And I'm very excited about EMI, the Enterprise mode for Internet Explorer, because we have to pronounce all of our acronyms. But the EMI mode is a way for you to time capsule those existing investments. and yet still move on with your new investments onto newer and more modern browsers. And there's a lot of reasons why you want to do that. By the way, you'll be able to manage these through group policy. Individually on a page, you can hit a button to turn it on and off and that kind of stuff. And if you want to learn a whole lot more about it, go to Fred's talk and Nicole's talk on Friday. Do you guys happen to know when that talk is? Friday at 2. Yeah, Friday afternoon. And it's all about the enterprise mode and how you can use it and that kind of stuff. So anybody who had raised their hands earlier, you might want to think about that talk. So why do you want to be on a modern browser? So firstly, I get excited about the ubiquitous reach of modern browsers these days. And every single platform that I play on, I've got a modern version of a browser. So I've got, on desktop, I'm running the latest version of IE. On mobile, I've got IE 11 now. We're all excited. Tablets, the same thing. Xbox has got an excellent browser as well. And the IE web platform is just incredibly expansive, and there's a lot of new features that are available. There's performance enhancements, a tremendous amount of performance. We're ever increasing the amount of hardware acceleration that we're doing, which greatly reduces the wear and tear on the battery, greatly reduces the wear and tear on your disk, on memory consumption, etc. If you want a whole lot more information on that, more information than any one man should be able to consume, Tobin Titus is talking tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. All about performance. That is a 400-level talk. It's amazingly in-depth, and he'll talk about things like which images you pick are going to affect the lifetime of your device. I was like, okay, wow. And he's got all the metrics and the numbers and the measurements on how to back that up. And then security. Security is incredible. We've got lots and lots of smart screen filter improvements, tracking protection, the enhanced protection mode, which really locks down the browser and makes it a solid sand pool. TLS 1.2, a whole bunch of great new innovations. The smart screen filtering, I think, is pretty cool because there's malware and phishing attempts. We capture, I forget the exact number, but it's an incredible percentage of that before you even see it in your browser. And so we're really trying to make security a #1 priority and really help you be more secure. And so we've got that on Windows 8.1, we've got it on Windows 7, we've got it on Windows Phone, a whole lot of awesome sauce there for Windows and IE 11 on all the platforms where it is at. And so now we get to the fun part of this, which is lots and lots of features. Multi-touch. How many people have more than one finger? Okay, not everybody raised their hand. I'm surprised, all right. Not that finger mark. And so, how many people have a touch device? If you didn't raise your hand, you're probably in the wrong room, okay? The Office Word app discussion is down the hall. No, we've got multiple touch laptops and tablets and other things that are out there. In fact, all of my machines now are touch because I got tired of having fingerprints all over my non-touch devices. And so I've got a 23-inch touch monitor that I bought for about $200 off of Amazon. That's my home monitor. I've got the Surface Pro 2 up here. I've got an Asus that's in my bag. That's my other development machine. It's touch as well. But also, who has a phone? Again, if you're not raising your hand, you're probably in the wrong room. All these phones these days are all touch, okay? However, who also uses a mouse? Again, if you're not raising your hand, you get the picture. Well, there is also stylus. There's also a whole bunch of other types of input. In fact, there's new inputs like Connect, and there's more inputs that we haven't even imagined coming down the pike. And someday these are going to land, and we need to be able to manage those and work with those. And so pointer events, if you've not played with pointer events, are a fantastic way to support multi-touch, but also support mouse, also support stylus. And like with stylus, you get a lot of metadata that you wouldn't get off of a mouse or off a touch event. So you'll get the tilt of the pen, you'll get the pressure of the pen, you'll get a whole bunch of great metadata that you can either ignore if you just want to treat it like a mouse, or let's say you want to do a painting application, or if you want to do some other type of application where that pressure and that rotation and that tilt really matter and can provide additional input, well, pay attention to that metadata. And that's all available in the browser today, and that's really, really exciting to me. Other great things like audio. Okay, so we are able to do audio right in the browser with the audio tag and just drop that in. MP3 and AACS, AAC are widely supported. Ogg Vorbis catches everything else. HTML5 video, there's a lot of stuff we can do with video these days. And this is, I get really excited about this because this is where we had to go to Flash, had to go to Silverlight and other plugin models in order to get audio, video, different types of input and that kind of stuff. So let me kick over and show you a couple of things here. One is a little audio, able to play here. And what we've got Canvas, and it's a 2D canvas, and we're drawing on top of that. But we're actually using pointer events and multi-touch to actually play with this. Now, this is an older demo. This is about a year and a half old. And so you're able to do this in a lot of different browsers these days. And, but I just think this is kind of fun and kind of exciting. But let's step back and let's step over and take a look at video. Okay, so you might remember the Big Bunny here. The Big Bunny is, we were using this for streaming demos with Silverlight, okay? And we're able to now do that same streaming, and it's diskless streaming directly to the browser with this, and it does variable bitrate, et cetera. Let me step down here to this one, though. And here, exciting part about this one is that this one is doing digital rights management, DRM'd video, streaming directly into the browser, okay? And so I'm not a rah-rah yay DRM, but what I am is, this is the last bastion of what Flash could do and what Silverlight could do that we couldn't just do natively in the browser. And so now we can actually just go browser and go JavaScript, HTML, and rock on our way there. There's also a lot we can do here with things like captioning, and so this is a video that our team put out, talking about. I don't know if you've seen this one or not, but it's the old, it's the browser you love to hate talk and discussion, and it's reminiscing about where we came from and where we grew up. But you can see here all of the captions, and we can actually go just turn those off. And so we're able to do really unique captioning, not just there's a text across the bottom of the screen. We're able to do color. We're able to do fonts. We're able to do impact statements and really convey the emotion of what's being said and what's being heard through those captions as best as we can, and really provide a fantastic interface for people of all types of different disabilities. All right. So lots of great stuff there. Let me come back over to here. But Josh, I'm not doing fancy, flashy video and audio and that kind of stuff. I need a little bit more mundane things. I've got line of business applications and that kind of stuff to write. That's great. We've got lots of support for those things as well. We've got CSS, Flex, multi-column, and grid, which really give you ability to do dynamic and exciting layouts just by playing with the CSS. And so. Let me come over here to the multi-column sample here, and I've got a lot of text here just on the page, and if I scroll down to the bottom, I've actually got the text for this. So I don't know if you guys in the cheap seats in the back can read that, but let me zoom in and down just for a second. So you can see there, it's a div, and we've got paragraphs inside of that, okay? So that's all it is. And so if I go back to here, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to say, you know what, I want that to be 200 pixels wide columns. Bam. I now have 200 pixel wide columns. Okay. Let me go over here and I'm going to say, you know what? I want a column fill of, let's see, I want a column rule style of solid. And I want that to be red. And I want that to be 5 pixels wide. And let's see, I'm going to do a column span of all on one of these. So you can see that that second div is actually doing a column span across all of them. Okay? And so I'm able to do, and everything is just flowing around that. And that's, I think, pretty awesome. So what happened in the code? So what happened in the code, again, let me zoom in here. So all we did is we added a CSS rule here that says column rule, 5 pixel solid red, column width 200. And then on the second paragraph here, we've got a column span. Not seeing it at the moment, but because it's too big a text. There it is. Column span all right there, okay? And it doesn't have to be the inline. It can be down here. Here's the CSS for that. And so we've got the CSS there as well, okay? Now, if you're thinking about this and going, but not every browser has the ability to do this. That's great. All the modern ones do, and worst case scenario, you go back to divs of text. Okay, so just the original paragraphs of text. So this is the worst case scenario is you go back to this. Okay, so this is a safe one that you can start playing with and really do some interesting and readable layouts in your applications. But you can also do media queries. Media queries give you really great responsive web designs. Okay, so if I take a look at this, what I've got is you see the full resolution picture here. But in the CSS, I'm actually loading these images in. And so what I'm doing is, actually let me see if I can kick back over to here for a second. And go ahead. And so you see the @media min width. You can do min width, you can do max width. You can also check different types of media. So you can do screen, or you can do, I believe the other one is print at the moment. And so, coming back over to here and looking at this, we're actually loading inside of that min width equals this. We're loading that image. But then we've got, if I keep going down, see it's still full resolution, but bam, it kicks over once we get down to this mobile width. And it's only going to load the mobile image, which is going to save on your bandwidth, which is going to save on your decoding of images, which is going to save on your memory footprint. And there's a whole bunch of other great things that come along with that. And again, go to Tobin's talk. He goes into this in depth as to why you want to be loading variable size images and that kind of stuff. We're able to do that all here very simply within the browser, just in the CSS layer. But let's say that you've got a whole lot more line of business kind of requirements for that. That's okay, we've got that too. So Web Crypto. Web Crypto, I think, is an exciting a new API that's right there in the browser. Back in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003 timeframe, I was doing a consulting gig with a company that did dialysis research around the world. And one of the fun things is that we couldn't know a lot of the patients' names and identifiers because of HIPAA regulations, and Japan actually has a much more stringent version of that. So how do you give the doctor the ability to go through and answer a survey knowing that they're tying this to a particular patient without telling us what that patient's name is? How do you keep a secret that you can't know? And so what I did is, sadly, we wrote a JavaScript cryptography routine that ran in browser. That was massive, it was ugly, it was slow, it was insecure. There's lots and lots of problems with it. Now it's built natively into the browser, and we've got this ability to do cryptography. And this also is, by the way, the technology behind how we're able to do DRM. And all this is available, this is a standard off of the W3C. It's currently in working draft format, but we've got a great implementation there. There's other things like offline cache. So you can do offline versions of your application. What you do is you provide a cache manifest, and that cache manifest says, here are the files that we want to give offline. And so when the browser goes to that URL, what it's going to do is it goes and checks and says, do I have the latest version? And it checks in the cache manifest, and it says, oh, the cache manifest says I want to download all these files. Great, I'm going to go download all these files. Next time, when it goes to load that URL, it says, oh, I've already got a local cache manifest. Oh, okay. I don't need to go back and check the cache manifest on the server. What I need to do is I need to go check and see, do I actually have a local version of all these files? If so, great, load them. And so that enables a lot of offline scenarios. So if you've got that line of business application that is doing work, to enable your person to be on a train or to be on a plane and do input, or they're in a semi-connected state, this is great for that. Now, there are some fun and interesting issues like you shouldn't put the cache manifest in the cache manifest because it will never actually check to see if it needs a new version. Whoops. So there's some gotchas here, but it's a great technique, especially when combined with things like IndexedDB. Okay, so IndexedDB is a non-relational database that is supported in all the big major browsers and is fully async and transaction-based right inside your browser. Okay, did anybody know that this was there? Handful of you? That's good. The rest of you, you now know that it's there. Very simple and easy to use API for it. And by default, you can store up to 10 meg in Internet Explorer. And then you can, with the user input, and you'll see down at the bottom, it pops up this little thing and says, would you like to enable more data for this particular application? Yes, click. And boom, you can go up to 250 meg in your IndexedDB. Which is plenty for that occasionally connected application, because what you want to do is you want to have the majority of your data on the server and have the data that you need offline. And any new data that they're inputting, you keep offline and sync up. And how do you sync that up? You can sync that up via WebSockets. So WebSockets gives you a full duplex communication over TCP directly from the browser right in JavaScript. And so allows you to connect back and forth. And then we have this idea of web workers. So there's, a lot of that stuff doesn't really have real sexy demos, but the web workers, we've got a decent one here. So let me kick over to 3. And by the way, I should have said at the beginning, IE11 everywhere means that I just pick a device and I start doing demos on it. So the same demo that I'm doing over here, here's my web workers, and I can run start here. So you can see in the background, the bottom thread is the web workers. That's running not on the UI thread. The one that's on the UI thread has to keep waiting for the UI thread and making sure that it's not interrupting the UI thread. The one on the bottom running in the background, and it's able to just work away. But that same thing works here on the phone, and so we bring this up, we hit start, and so you can see the two of them going away there. And again, it's the same demo that's over here, and so you can see the top is on the UI thread, the one on the bottom is not on the UI thread, and rocking away. So we've got multi-threading, a lightweight multi-threading model inside the browser. And so what this gives you is it gives you the ability to do lots of background processing and work. You can't talk to the UI thread. Okay? That's one of the limitations. You can't talk across those boundaries. And so the DOM is on the UI thread, so you can't do DOM manipulation, but you can do a lot of other processing. And you can also talk to the internet. And so you can use WebSockets, for example, and go get data and bring it down and do some number crunching and that kind of stuff, and do all that in the browser. And so that's all fantastic. All right. Where are we at? All right, so, and I meant to show this one earlier, but WebGL. WebGL, very fun thing. There's lots of great things that we can do with WebGL. This one is a little look around. This is another demo that we showed last year at Build. But how many people saw this demo at Build last year? Handful of you, very good. How many of you saw somebody pick up the device and actually start moving it around? I think that's just awesome. Because we've got actually access to more than just the stylus and mouse and those types of things. We've also got access to the accelerometer right inside the device as well, if your device supports an accelerometer. And again, that works across different types of devices and so on and so forth. All right, where are we at? Back over to here. So we also have geolocation. So geolocation is going to identify the user's location, Typically on the desktop, it's going to use the IP or the Wi-Fi and narrow it down. You do have to be cautious about this one and trusting it implicitly because sometimes it depends on how you're routed around. And so I tried this demo. Actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and just for giggles and make sure everybody has a good laugh at Josh's expense here. We'll go show the geolocation, and it pops up and says, do you want to allow that? And you say, oops. You know what? It helps if I'm actually on the right slide here. It says, do you want to allow it? And you say, yes, I'm going to allow it. And it pops up and it does the location. The fun part about that is that it turns out that the show company is routing our internet traffic through Atlanta. Rock on. And so it's showing me in Atlanta for some reason. But on the device, on the phones, you can be much more accurate. And normally, 99 times out of 100, it actually will put you within a couple hundred yards of where you're at, which is not enough to do like sports tracking, but it is enough to find your local pizza place. That kind of stuff, and other types of geolocation type work. Find your local office, your Comcast office, or whatever it is. All right, back over to here. So geolocation, accelerometer I just talked about for a minute, gives you orientation of the devices. And then Canvas. So you've already seen a couple of Canvas demos. One of them was the audio demo there at the beginning. The very, very simple way to do Canvas, and this is an extraordinarily simple Canvas demo, and the code for that right here in the slide, and what we're doing is we do get the element by ID, great, and then we get the context, and we're going to get the 2D context. That's important, and we'll show you why in a minute. And then we just start drawing objects on top of that, okay? But again, you've already seen some much more exciting demos of Canvas, and so we've got the, kick back over to here, and so this is actually all 2D Canvas, and we're doing this fairly awesome rendering of the universe, and rotating around, and the performance on this is, I think, fairly amazing. Let me come back to here. But if you then step over and start doing the 3D context, then you can do things like the WebGL bit here. So this is Babylon.js, and Babylon.js is, oops, I come back over to here. So Babylon.js is a 3D framework and allows you to build in WebGL for the web here, okay? And so all this is just running in the web. Now, in the background of this application, it's actually using IndexedDB to do offline storage of all the assets. And so it actually downloads about 180 meg worth of assets, but you saw how quick that loaded. And the reason that it loads that quick is because I've already run this demo once. And it went ahead and cached all that stuff, so you guys didn't have to wait for it to load and all that kind of fun stuff. But the other exciting part for me is that all of this actually is a Windows 8 app. And so it's using the exact same code as the demo that I just showed you. And so you can actually take all of this stuff and do it in your WWA apps as well. And so we've got the same exact application, the exact same navigation. So we've got touch, we've got mouse, we've got pointer events, etc., all there in your application. And it's nice and easy and exciting. But again, that's not all we can do. We can actually also talk about how performant this is. And so the performance on this is phenomenal. And so FishGL, I don't know if you guys remember the original fish demo. And so we've got the fish bowl, the fish tank, and now we've got FishGL. And so the original was just a 2D canvas, and we had beta fish swimming around inside of a tank. And doing some performance analysis. Now we can actually are playing around here, and let me spin this, see how fast I can spin it. That's kind of fun. But I can also zoom in, and if I kick out here, I can actually jump inside of one of these fish, and now I can swim around inside of the tank here. That kind of fun? And up on modern.ie, which is one of the properties that my team runs, we actually have a teardown of how you can go build FishGL itself as well. And then we can skip up the number of fish. So let me skip up to 275 fish, and we'll start seeing a lot of fish come popping in. And we're able to still do a reasonably responsive website here with 275 fish. 48 frames a second is faster than TV. TV is typically 24, and we're doing better than that, and it's optimizing and working its way up. 56 frames a second, and because we're looking at a very large object there. Let me turn around. There we are. So now it's dropping back off a little bit because it's still processing those things out in the background. Anyways, cool? All right. All right, and so there's one more demo here that I want to show here, and that is the 22 tracks. So 22 tracks, doing a lot with the, basically a lot of the stuff that I talked about today. So it's doing flexible layouts, and then it is, where are we at? Yeah, there we are. And so we've got, so 22 tracks. Let me talk about 22 tracks for a few minutes. If you find, music exciting and you start looking for music, there's a lot of services out there that will dynamically start suggesting music to you. Curation is better. And so what 22 tracks have done is they do actual curation of music. So they get DJs, top-rated DJs around Europe. So it started off in Amsterdam, but they also do Paris, they also do London, they also do one other city, which I can't remember right now. And they actually have these top-rated DJs actually pick 22 tracks in a number of different genres of music. And then we've helped them on the IE team, visualize this in a great way. And so we've got the actual, here are the tracks that they picked for dance and techno out of Amsterdam. And inside this circle here, you can see the ring here represents each one of the different songs. And so I can skip around inside there and jump to the next song. And then on the outside, we've actually got the audio track for that particular song, and I can drag that around and I can skip ahead of the music. All the visualizations, all that stuff in the background, that's all WebGL, and we're actually reading off the audio track on the server side, piping that in via WebSockets, and listening to the audio track to figure out what to show and bounce and make sure that we're hitting the right notes. And personally, I think this is kind of fun. The other thing that I really like about this is that, let me kick over to here, this also works extraordinarily well on your mobile device. And so here we have WebGL running away. Let me bring up the audio on this one. This was one, I think. So we've got the exact same website. It's just the responsive design is bringing up the right things for the mobile device. And so we can skip over to seeing the track information, and then we can go back to the music, and we can actually go see the playlist, and we can find out that we can go get this particular song from iTunes or 7digital or Spotify, etc. And again, working right there in the browser, exact same application as we've got over here running on the desktop. And as I shrink this down, where's my browser? So there we are, and that looks very much like this application over here. I'm actually bring up the tracks there, and so we can see those two together. That's exciting, isn't it? Same application, running cross-platform, using a tremendous amount of modern features of these browsers, and working great across all these different platforms. So a lot of great abilities in the browser. And so I've talked about Canvas, talked about WebGL. If you are interested in the WebGL and graphics capabilities, make sure that you hit Frank Olivier's talk, and that is Friday at 10:30 a.m. He's going to go much, much deeper into all the graphics and really show you behind the scenes how you're going to be able to do all this. But to build all of this, you need tools in order to manage all of this complexity. I mean, my first web applications I wrote in just a basic text editor. But at this point in time, these web applications are much, much more complex, and the front end is doing a tremendous amount more. And so I want tooling that's going to help me. And F12 is getting better and better and better and better, and there's a tremendous amount of great stuff that is coming in F12. And I'll just give you a very, very brief snippet of some of it. Where is that? I'm trying to remember the website that I was going to show on that one. But I'll just pick a random website. And actually, I'll just pick one of these demos here. So if we pick here the web workers, and we hit F12, and I'm going to snap that over there, and I'm going to snap this one over here so we can see them side by side. The UI responsiveness tool, if I refresh and I hit stop, it's going to go collect a lot of analysis, and I can actually see the different sections of my application. So the blue down here is where I was loading. And actually, let me zoom in here. Come on. Plus, minus. There we are. Come on. I love it when Zoom doesn't work. It's awesome. So each one of these is styling. Okay, so the styling is actually showing let me start that analysis over again. And let me start and refresh and stop. There we are. There we go. So now that's going to work. And so I can zoom in and I can see here is where we did a little bit of garbage collection to get ready. Here's where we did the loading. So we're actually, we've got assets and we're starting to load those into our different parsers and that kind of stuff. And then we found some JavaScript. And so we're going to start parsing that JavaScript and start executing that JavaScript. And so that's the red there. The blue here is image decoding. And so we're actually able to see, where our images are decoding. And, again, go to Tobin's talk. He'll have a lot more detail on how that works. And then here's where we're styling and actually getting stuff ready to draw on the screen. And then we draw that to the screen and rock on. There is a tremendous amount of information that is available to you. And so here are the HTTP requests, how long they ended up taking. Here's the HTML parsing. Here's where we did the layout, and so we can go see the layout bit and actually dive into each one of those different sections. If that's what we care about and that's what we're excited about, we can filter to that and it will just drop down to where we're just looking at that bit. That's exciting. We also have memory management tools, so we can actually go analyze, here are all the objects, and do deltas between different snapshots of memory. And Andy Sterland has got a talk about this on, I'm trying to remember when that talk is. Andy has a talk on 4/4 at 10:30 a.m. So he already did one on the Visual Studio and Windows Phone. Did anybody see that one? Cool, I get to show you this one. I was worried that everybody would have already seen that one, and I wouldn't, and it would steal my thunder here. So what we've got is, in Visual Studio, we've got a lot of great new tools to help you with your web development, especially on mobile, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I go to Debug, and I'm going to say Debug, and I'm going to say I want to debug a Windows Phone Internet Explorer. I click, and I want to launch on, I can say which emulator I want to launch on, or I'm going to launch on the device itself. And I'll be choosy here, and I'll pick joshholmes.com because that's, well, my website. And so here is my device loading up. And it's loading up joshholmes.com. But you'll notice over here, what it's actually doing is it's loading the DOM Explorer, just like I've got in the F12 developer tools. Okay? Now this gets more exciting, because what I can do is right here, see this little tool says select element, okay? So I'm going to select an element, and then I'm going to come over to my device, and actually to prove it, I'll show you, I'll step over here, I'm going to select that search box, and notice that it selected it over in the DOM Explorer. This allows me to really get inside what's going on that mobile device And this is going to be shipping with a lot of different versions of Visual Studio. I don't know what SKUs off the top of my head. If you find Andy, ask him. But this will be shipping in a developer preview very shortly and coming out later this summer. But these tools are really going to help you when developing mobile device applications. You're able to debug across emulators, across real devices. You're able to play with the styles. You're able to play with computations. You're able to catch events. You're able to do debugging. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do right there in Visual Studio. So let me come back over to slides here for a minute. All right. So before I get to that slide there, just to recap what we've talked about. Everybody should be using a modern version of a browser these days. And we've enabled in IE 11 the enterprise mode to really enable you to move forward to a modern version of a browser and yet keep intact those existing infrastructure investments that you already have. Okay? And so that's exciting, but the reason you want to be on a modern version of a browser, beyond the fact that it performs better, beyond the fact that it's more secure, beyond the fact that it's just a better environment for your users and for your company, for you as a consumer, there's a tremendous amount of features that you can start taking advantage of. From the bling bling, from audio and video and WebGL and all that kind of front-end stuff, to really meaty line of business application work. So, things like, the FlexGrid, the web workers, web sockets, offline abilities. All this is available to you in modern versions of browsers, so you need to move forward. And to help you with that, we've got a lot of great tooling built right into the browser on the desktop and built into Visual Studio for the mobile devices. Okay? So, does that all make sense? Everybody excited? Everybody moving to a modern version of a browser really, really soon? All right, very good. So to convince you a little bit more, what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring up the guy that runs the whole thing. So he is the group program manager for Internet Explorer. Did I get that right? Fantastic. All right. So please welcome to the stage Sam George.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to come up for a quick moment. I'm new to the IE team. I wanted to say thank you for the support. As you heard in the keynote today, things are changing, and it's very clear from Satya and Terry. We're changing too, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the principles that we have going forward. And we're super excited about the work that we've done in IE 11, both on the desktop and on the phone. And going forward, we have a very simple principle that we're going to carry along with us, and that's that the web just works. It just works for consumers, and it just works for enterprise. You're going to see a lot of focus on that. And we think that's really a two-way conversation. We think that's also a lot of work that we need to do. You see us taking the first steps with that, with Enterprise Mode IE, like we've talked about. You see it with us putting Internet Explorer 11 on phones, but there's a lot more work to do. And so the biggest thing we need to do right now is start listening and having a two-way conversation with the web community. We're very, very committed to this. I feel so strongly about this that I have a team dedicated to it. So I'd like to invite Charles Morris up. He's my lead that's responsible for this, for having a great and engaged conversation with the web community. You're going to be seeing a lot more from him in the future. So I just wanted to introduce him and introduce myself and say thank you for your support.
Great, thanks a lot, Sam, and good afternoon. Are we into evening now? Well, anyways, thanks for sticking around. I do have a great pleasure of showing something new, which is pretty cool. So as Terry said in the keynote this morning, one of the top pieces of feedback that we get at any Microsoft developer conference is to please share more about your roadmap. And you can imagine that that type of feedback is actually greatly amplified when you look at an area like Internet Explorer. And so that's why I'm really happy to announce today the beta availability of the IE platform status site at status.modern.ie. So let's go ahead and take a look. Sure, I got the right number there. There we go. So here it is. So when we designed the site, we actually had three main questions in mind that we thought you would be wondering as a web developer. The first one's pretty simple, which is a given feature available in Internet Explorer? So let's say I'm wondering about that look around demo, and I really want to use the device orientation feature. So I'll type that in. I'll just use the text filter here. And I can see quickly at a glance here that, yes, in fact, device orientation is supported in IE 11 and above. So you can see there's a bunch of other pre-canned filters here, like the technology or what browsers are supported and that so forth. The second question that we thought was interesting was, is a given feature available across browsers? So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit, and so let's say something like Canvas. What I can do is expand that out here, and you can see there in the bottom right where all the icons are lit up that actually this is a good feature that is available across browsers and is safe to use. There's also some useful links here to things like documentation on webplatform.org or to the W3C spec. So you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that's great, but all of this information is already available elsewhere on the web. So the third question is actually the most interesting because it relates to the roadmap feedback that we talked about earlier. And that is, what is coming next in Internet Explorer? So the best part about the site is that we can scroll down even further and find things like this. CSS transforms preserve 3D. And you'll notice that the status here is flipped to in development. So this is us telling you on a public site that we are actively working on this feature on the Internet Explorer team, and you can expect this to come in a future version of IE. So this is a first, and actually, the great thing about it is even though the data is available here first, we are actually going to open up this data and make it available for other browser vendors or tool makers or whoever to use this data so they can also be informed about what's coming up next in IE. So as Terry said, this is about making shared investments. We're going to be more open about what we're working on so that you can, in turn, be more thoughtful about what you're planning and what features you want to write to next. So keep in mind that this is just a beta site right now. I'm not going to go through all the features that we've marked as in development because I want to leave some surprises for you. But also, as we progress through planning and development for the next version of Internet Explorer, you're going to see a bunch more features flip to the in development status. But actually, even more importantly, the status site is just a start. As Sam said, we really want to get better at interacting with the web developer community, all of you, and really have this two-way conversation. So the easiest way to do it, so give us feedback. We want feedback on the status site or anything else that's on your mind around the IE platform. The easiest way to do it is to tweet us at IE DevChat, mostly because we can only take feedback in 160-character chunks. But also, it's a nice public forum where everyone else can see the conversation. To kind of continue driving that conversation on Twitter, we're going to be holding monthly Ask IE sessions. So the first one's coming up on April the 15th, and they'll be around the middle of the month, every month going forward. So this will be roughly 2 hours where you'll get to interact directly with a bunch of the engineers on the IE team, ask them anything you want, and get responses in real time. You're also going to see us pop up a lot more at web conferences such as Beyond the Desktop and the JS conference that are coming up. So with that, I invite you to check out the beta of status.modern.ie. Please give us your feedback at IE DevChat or come check us out on Ask IE. And we hope you like it and look forward to hearing more from you. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Josh.
And so, in continuing that theme, we've got a lot of experts on Internet Explorer that are floating around the conference. Sam's not on here because, well, you know, he's just Sam. He's just awesome and kind of supersedes the slide. But we've got Jacob Rossi. So if you're excited about touch and inputs and those types of things, find that guy. If you're excited about the enterprise mode, find Nicole Birdie and or Fred Pullen. If you're excited about performance, really want to get deep into the nitty-gritties of how this all works and is fast, talk to Tobin Titus. Charles, actually, Windows Phone and Community and everything else. Frank Olivier to talk about graphics and WebGL. Developer Tools, Andy Sterling is walking around. And then we have John Hazen, who's doing Windows apps with using the same rendering engine. So if you're asking, want to know how to wrap a lot of this stuff up and ship it, through the stores and that kind of stuff, find John Hazen, and he's got a talk as well that actually just happened earlier today, so you'll have to catch that one on demand. So we've got a lot of great people here for you to interact with, and we want to interact with you. We want to hear questions. In fact, I want to hear more questions now. Do you guys have questions? So use the microphones, pretty please. And for the questions, we actually have some speakers. We've got these little USB chargers, and we've got a set of headphones. So if it's a really good question, then we'll start firing away with those. So right over here first.
So we have a number of older apps where I work at, and sometime in the next probably year or so, we're going to look at re-architecting them.
Okay.
Currently, they're written for Windows. They only run on Windows. We're an insurance company. We have complete control over our domain, where they run at. What is the main reasons you would consider to choose between writing another native application or an application on the web if you have total control over your environment? Currently, we support things such as we have a large remote workforce, so they can intermittently go offline, continue working, and all of that right now seems to work pretty well, but we're tinkering with the idea of not doing a native app and instead doing a web-based browser-based app.
Right.
If you were making that decision, what would your main pros and cons be to going one direction or the other one? Because it seems like there's a lot right now saying that we should be able to go completely online and not do a native app to accomplish everything we want to.
Right. So it's a nuanced question. So I would start looking at, and then I'll take the first stab.
You're also asking a biased set of people.
No. We're slightly biased, right? So we're going to lean towards web. That's going to be the first thing that we're going to be excited about. But I'd be looking at, is it actually a homogeneous environment? Do you have everybody on the exact same version of the operating system? Do they have similar resolutions? You're going to have to worry about that kind of stuff. All these are considerations. What's your rollout plan for a native application? How are you going to do updates on the fly? I mean, with a web app, it's real simple. You make a change in one place and everybody gets the update. With a native application, now you've got to start thinking about the rollout and the distribution and that kind of stuff. If you are doing anything with the hardware, like you're trying to do sensors, trying to do barcode scanners, you're trying to do that kind of stuff, then native makes more sense. If you're not, then honestly, it's tomato these days in a lot of ways. Native has a lot of great support for rollout through the store if you're on Windows 8. Older versions of operating system, which I'm guessing if you're in an insurance company, there's not as great a rollout.
No Windows 8.
So if there's no Windows 8, then the rollout plan, the deployment model for web just makes more sense. And that would be one of my primary considerations.
Yeah, currently our only worry is that we run into some sort of a blocking roadblock, but we have a lot of drag and drop, we have things like that are going on, we have flow-based charts that we move stuff around, and it seems like the web has finally matured to a point that we could
If you
go
could
to the
get to
web.
IE11, we've got a lot of great support for a lot of the things that you've got there.
Yeah.
So why don't we move to somebody else, and I'd love to ask more questions of you afterwards. So let's stop over here.
Hi. With this platform, will we have similar options for in-app purchasing and monetization that we have with other development platforms?
So monetization, that's an interesting question.
Are you asking about in Internet Explorer? Are we going to be providing in-app purchases?
Yes.
At this time, we're not. We certainly consider it as an option. I'd love to talk to you afterwards and hear a little bit more about your scenarios. It tends to be more of a app-based capability because the apps have a relationship with the store, so there's a monetary relationship set up. But it's certainly an interesting idea to be able to do that through the browser too when it's running on Windows. So, thank you.
I work at a company that has a vertical market web application. We use MVC, and we've got a feature that we're planning on starting to develop for a mobile application. And what we want to do is have some speech to text and support for a camera. And I haven't dug that far into it yet, but I'm kind of hoping that there's some support in IE11 or coming soon to help with that.
There's no support in IE 11 for accessing the camera. One thing you could look at if you want to do a web-based app is use something like PhoneGap, which will allow you to use HTML for the vast majority of your app, and then use some of the native interop capabilities in a framework like that to access things like the camera. It is kind of an emerging standard that you'll see come to the web, watch the status site, but it's not there today. Well, yeah.
Thanks.
You want a speaker? Do you want a USB charger? Speaker? USB charger. All right. First one of those will go away. All right. Question over here.
Hi, my question is really around the idea of how do we make suggestions or recommend to our clients that you should really pull the plug and avoid going backward compatibility and move on to the newer versions, such as IE 11, right? Is there any plans from Microsoft to say, hey, you're on IE 7 or IE 6, that's a really legacy platform and you should really get off of it? Is Microsoft going to help us, push our clients away from those platforms?
Certainly going forward, there's a strong desire to consolidate our browser share around our most modern version. You see, the Enterprise Mode IE is just the first step. There'll be a lot, we had quite a partnership, quite an internal or external pilot program. There were somewhere between 90 and 100 companies that participated in that. So we were making sure it met their needs. Now that it's public and we've announced it, you'll see a big press towards that. But obviously, it's up to companies to move, at their own speed that's right for their business. They will move when the time is right for them. We look at it like it's our job to build the technologies that makes that an easy decision.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do you want a speaker or do you want a USB power? Question over here.
Yes, I write unobtrusive JavaScript libraries, minified libraries that we host in the Azure cloud.
Okay.
And often I'm forced into Chrome developer tools because of the print pretty functionality so that I can debug. And the lack of ability to delete individual cookies. Is that in the roadmap in F12?
I believe we've got pretty print.
Yeah, so in the
I
F12
saw it on
developer
your-
tools, we have pretty prints, and we actually have a very cool new thing that is just my code, okay, which allows you to ignore a lot of the other code like 3JS or jQuery or anything like that when you're doing your debugging. But it also, we've got source maps, and source maps allow you to take that compiled or minified, uglified JavaScript and actually map it back to the original source. So you can debug the original, and this works for minified code, it works for compiled stuff like CoffeeScript and TypeScript.
Yeah. And you can toggle between the nice view from your server and the
And what's
minified
actually running
view.
in the browser and that
Exactly.
kind of
And set breakpoints?
Yep.
stuff. Yes. And it will remember the breakpoints
Yes.
across instances, so you can actually open up your browser and start debugging, then close it, bring it back, and it'll remember all your breakpoints. There's a lot of great stuff. Make sure you hit Andy's talk. Andy Sterland at the F12 developer tools have just gotten nicer again. Big guy there in the bottom row.
And then what about the ability to delete individual cookies?
I don't know the answer to
Don't
that.
believe F12 supports that yet. We'll certainly add it to our backlog.
It's in
Yeah.
both Firebug and in Chrome.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know.
Yep.
You want a speaker?
Andy's the guy who will make that happen. Whoa,
Yeah.
good
Nice
catch.
Good catch.
Wow.
Very good catch.
Wow, that was
That
a
was a
wild
fast
throw.
Yeah, wild throw. First wild throw so far. Good catch. Yes.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Boris from UC Web. We are developer of mobile browsers. So my question is, what do you think of WebView, which is widely used by hybrid app and third-party browsers?
Charles, you want to take that
WebView.
I didn't catch the
one?
question.
So the question is, what do you think of WebView and
Any
those types
plan?
of things in the hybrid applications?
We love them. I mean, that's the short answer. I mean, I think, certainly a trend that we've seen over the years is as mobile platforms have proliferated, you're now seeing people having to replicate their investment in a native mobile app now times 2, times 3, in order to get their app out to all those platforms. And so the web is, what the web is great at is interoperability and being able to reduce some of those investments. Hybrid apps are a great way to retain some of the power. So I mentioned PhoneGap earlier. They allow you to retain the power of the native platform where you need it to go beyond what the web platform can do today, while still sharing a bunch of your other code across platforms. So, we think hybrid apps are a huge trend. We've seen a bunch of data indicating that, and we intend to absolutely embrace and enable them. I think John Hazen did a talk today basically saying that as well.
But, okay. But I was thinking, okay, I may start with our own experience, because currently we are using web browser as well as our own rendering engine on Windows Phone. But as we found the very many features on IE was missing on web browser and WebView. And even with feedback to Nokia suggests us use your own WebKit, which is pretty weird for us. So I was thinking, what's any plan to...
I'd love to hear more about that scenario and your particulars. Can you stick around after and let me get a card from you, and we'll follow up directly to find out more about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we're actually using the same engine for both on the device, so there shouldn't be features missing from them. So I want to hear more about that, okay? All right. You want a speaker?
Yeah.
All right.
Watch
I'm not
out.
going to throw it over everybody. I'll throw it out to the side and then come over here for a question.
Nice.
Yes.
Hi, my company has developed a pretty extensive Silverlight app for one of our clients, and should we be concerned that some future version of IE won't have a Silverlight plugin?
Sam?
So the question was about Silverlight forward compatibility.
Right.
We support all of our extensibility models. We're not planning on changing those. No.
Okay, great. Good news.
We're not on a hunt for Silverlight. I actually used to be part of the Silverlight team. So the thing I'd say is that, there's certainly a lot of attack vectors that come through ActiveX, and we'd sure love to find some great ways in the future to mitigate that for users. But it's an important part of the platform. So.
All right. Question over here.
All right. With F12 tools, just from that quick demo, they look remarkably better, but everything I have to develop for is pretty much IE8 with the odd person coming in IE7. Would that enterprise mode switch back or switching browser compatibility? How good and confident would you guys be in doing that if I went back on Monday and just changed to IE11? Because I have the luxury of running it, but I've just left IE8 on the machine just because when somebody comes up with an issue, I just want to see what they're seeing. Would there be any disparity in enterprise mode visually that I would have to worry about, or should I just stay with IE8 and then build everything in Firefox and Chrome?
So certainly during the pilot, we found that enterprise mode IE solves the vast majority of compatibility problems.
Okay.
It is not the exact same source that's running. Like there's some of it that we put back, but it's not the exact same source. So, we can't make a claim that it's going to be 100%. We think we've solved the lion's share of the problems, and we're committed to making it better even going forward.
The other thing I'd encourage you to do is, if you need to keep IE8 around just to make sure, is to check out a service like BrowserStack.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been out to Modern IE, but that's a great tool so that you don't have that machine
Right.
on the side running IE8 that you have to boot up.
Well, and that's it. I mean, I can set up a virtual, or there's other ways around it, but obviously the easiest way is to just leave it there. But all those tools in 12 or the F12 thing make me want to switch again. But
you don't want to. You don't want to be running.
What I would do personally is I would do a lot of my development in 11 with the right tools.
Yeah.
And then I make sure you sanity check, make sure you test in the other browsers. And you can actually do a lot of automated testing through BrowserStack. And then also off modern.ie, we offer virtual machines for doing testing of a lot of different types of browsers. So,
Cool. All right.
Cool.
Thanks.
Awesome.
There's two more things.
Oh yeah. So charger. Okay. So speaker. All right.
What are we going to
Sorry,
do
we're
right
out
now?
of things. But we'll still answer your questions.
Water, bottle of
Yeah,
water.
I've got a bottle of water. Yeah.
Well, one thing I just noted with the process of going to a modern browser, that if you do a new .NET application insert a web browser control, it defaults to IE7. Any comments on that?
John Hazen. Can you answer this question?
You thought you were just
The
hanging
one
out.
you didn't listen to?
Can you ask John Hazen that question? Because actually, John, if you want to come up, you can use this mic here and answer the question. So the question was, if you start a new .NET application and use the web view, it defaults to IE7? That's what he said?
Well, are we talking about what kind of application are you building?
Desktop application.
Okay, so the desktop application is probably using like the Silverlight browser control, which is not the modern browser control that we've created. I'm not as familiar with that one, so that may be defaulting to an older mode. The modern WebView control that we deliver for XAML applications and for HTML applications uses basically the IE11 mode, so it's on the current Edge mode.
Yep.
I don't know what the older browser control is using that would be on desktop, so I'm sorry I can't answer that question directly right now.
Okay. Follow up with me on email. I know you've got my email, josh.holmes@microsoft.com, and we will find you an answer to that question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hey,
Awesome. Question over here.
Hey, I have three quick questions. The first one is, my organization is right now using IE8, and because of that, the developers could not be able to use the new CSS3 and HTML5 stuff. The cool thing which I learned is enterprise mode.
Right.
Even they can still use the older version and by promoting it to IE11. So the question is, for making my organization to move to IE11, I need to take it to my management. So we need to set the enterprise mode in the domain controller for the intranet apps, enabling which app, few apps are IE8, few apps are IE9. So we need to enforce that in the domain controller.
Yeah, so the Fred Pullen and Nicole's talk on Friday will have a whole lot more detail.
Yeah.
But the very
There's also a
high-level-
blog post now.
There's a blog post that's out and live on the IE blog.
Explains all the details.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, the high-level answer is that you can control it all through group policy as to which URLs are going to be in ME mode and which ones are not.
Got it.
So, yeah.
So the other question is, you showed us IE status check. Is that an app or what?
No, it's a webpage.
It's a website.
Status.modern.ie.
Oh,
Yep.
status. Okay, I was confused. Yeah. And the third question is, recently Microsoft Office apps were released in iPad. So, is there any roadmap for IE?
You only get 2 questions. Sorry, no, I'm teasing.
IE
So let me make sure I understand the question.
So recently, Microsoft Office was released in iPad, right? So,
Yes.
Is there any roadmap for IE to be released in iOS?
they already run in IE. So there's Office web apps that already run in IE.
And commenting on the Office strategy is outside the scope of
Yeah.
this talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Yep.
I have a really, I guess I'd call it a propeller head question. I'm curious about the IndexedDB. How long does that persist, and does it survive the user closing and opening the browser? Because I've never used it before.
Yes, it survives opening and closing the browser.
Does it
I actually
expire?
don't know how long. I think it's indefinite.
Yeah, it doesn't expire unless the user
Clears
exceeds,
cache or
yeah,
something.
clears their cache or exceeds. Like they do a bunch of other apps that also want to use that storage.
Right.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it'll last indefinitely until the user takes action to clear it or something else happens.
Okay, thanks. Oh, and I'm disappointed you ran out of toys.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll give you a hug later if you want.
Oh, good.
All right. Fantastic.
I see a phone up here.
Funny guy. Question over here.
Yes, I have to work in an offline mode with an HTML5 app, and my app cache manifest file just shows in debug tools in IE that it failed. But it works in Chrome and others, but I can't figure out how to debug why it failed in IE.
Okay.
11. Is
So
that possible?
can you find actually the trying to figure out who the right person to answer that question would be?
Andy Sterling, maybe?
What's that?
Would it be Andy Sterland?
Andy probably would know the answer to that because he knows the tools better than anybody else because
Okay.
he wrote them. And so, yeah, Andy would be a good one. And then Tobin actually might be another good one to get into the nitty gritty of that as well.
Okay.
And you can find folks either in the expert zone, which is on the second floor, I think, and then there's also office hours, which would be a good place to, we could actually, if you have the bug, actually reproducing, we can actually help you out directly.
Okay.
And if you can't get an answer here, make sure that you follow up with us, online later. It's iDevChat is the Twitter handle, or you can just reach out to me, josh.holmes@microsoft.com, and I'll route it internally.
Okay. And one more quick question. I know that in IE10 I could work in offline mode, but do you still offer that in IE11? I just couldn't find it to test in an offline mode.
Is there an offline mode in IE11? Is that the question?
Yes, that's the
I'm not
question.
sure.
I believe there is, but I'd have to double check. I don't know off the top
Okay,
of my head.
it's not in the place it was before, and I
Okay.
haven't found it yet. So, okay, thank
Cool.
you.
All right, question over here.
In the F12 developer tools, we have the ability to watch the traffic that goes back and forth.
Yes.
Is there any plans to be able to monitor the WebSocket traffic?
Good
I don't know.
question.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a
Grab
great
Andy.
question for Andy.
Debugging
Yeah.
SignalR
You get
would
Andy,
be a lot
you
easier.
will definitely know the answer to
Yep.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll ask him then. Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
And if not, make sure you request it and we'll add it to the backlog.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, because that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I see.
Yes.
I have a question. Basically, is the backward compatibility.
Backwards compatibility, yep.
Yeah. So from our company's experience, when we upgrade to the new IE, there's many bugs. For example, rendering experience, the UI, some functionality. So just for your team, what's the process to guarantee the backward compatibility? So I guess that's the problem here. Just wondering what's the process, why it's happening? Is it?
So part of why we developed ME is to help have great backwards compatibility in an even more pronounced way than we have before. You're asking specifically, though, what's the process that we use to test backwards compatibility? We have an extensive set of sites that we test quite deeply. I will say that there's 84 billion sites on the planet, and we do not test 84 billion sites.
I see,
And
okay.
so,
The Microsoft, does it have, IE has other, for example, Microsoft has a product of SharePoint, right? Even SharePoint has a compatibility issue in different IE. I mean, it's your own product. Does your test
yeah,
IE
and
work with?
we're always expanding that list. And so, we're aware of the SharePoint thing, and that's being tracked now. So, yep.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So I'm actually just curious about the update cycle. So one of the powerful things about like Chrome, for instance, is the rapid release cycles for that. And I know it's very hard, especially from an enterprise perspective, to pull that too rapid. But what are your guys' plans for that, especially keeping the F12 tools in mind?
So what I'd like to say right now is that we're working on a plan, but it's something we're not prepared to talk about right now. But we've heard that loud and clear.
Okay.
So-
And is it something that you plan to keep the F12 tools and the Internet Explorer completely coupled from a release cycle perspective?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is the database that's stored, is it encrypted or is there a way to encrypt it?
I forget. IndexedDB, yeah. Is it encrypted? Is there a way to encrypt
I
it?
believe IndexedDB is encrypted.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I believe it is. And if not, then you can use the Web Crypto API to encrypt the things that you put in it. But I believe that it is.
Okay.
But we have to test that. Ask IE Dev Chat that question, and we'll get back to you with an answer.
Okay.
Okay, one more, and we're going to get dinner.
And beer.
And beer.
Any plans to move away from the current versioning system and then move like Firefox or Chrome to a more rapid and
so that was
I'll answer that in the same spirit as the more rapid release. We're working on plans right now, but we have nothing we're prepared to discuss.
okay, so
We've heard feedback that the dock modes are that people are looking for a better solution.
so it is a good idea that you guys are exploring, right?
Sorry,
It is a good idea.
it is a good idea. Yes.
It's not like you guys want to stay where you are, like.
No. It's a good idea. Yes. We are aware it's a good idea. Yeah.
All right. So with that, let me wrap up by saying, turn it up to 11. Come out to modern.ie. We've got a lot of great tools and partner offers out there. We've got a great community of people that are willing to answer questions. The user agents, if you're interested in learning more about them, contact us and we'll talk more about that. Feel free to follow up with any of us online. And we've got a panel tomorrow. Feedback is important. Most people are gone, but the faithful that are still in the room, I definitely want your feedback. Let me know what we could have done better, what we could have talked about more, and I need a business card from you. Okay. Not
Thanks
you
a lot,
in the green
everyone.
hoodie down
Thank
below.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.